the final time. It's heartbreaking. It's kind of bittersweet. It's the Down Beach Buzz Real Estate Webcast for March 28, 2024. And finally, we're giving the song back to madness. Our house. We thought we might want to update our musical interlude as we get the show started. Paul Scollage of Guaranteed Rate. Paul, what do you think? A little more retro, P. Diddy. What do you want to play in the beginning of the show?
It's definitely time. We're going to move on. We're going to move on up like George and Weeze, something different.
And what about you, Sherry Lilienfeld of VXP? What song would you prefer to open up with every time we do a real estate webcast for Margate, Ventnor, Longport, and Lower Chelsea?
Oh, you're going to ask me to pick a song? I'm not good at that, but I really do love Our House. I really do, but it is time for a change for sure.
All right, we'll refresh it and everything. So hi, everybody. And today's program, we'll get started here with the little click of the button. It's all brought to us by CNS Custom Builder, Margate, Ventnor, Longport. These guys are growing pretty doggone fast in Margate. CNS Custom Builder, new models, new construction, additions, kitchen and bath, remodels. Check them out at cscustombuilder.com. And our favorite HVAC company, when Sherry's pool craps out, the pool heater, she's calling Energy, SSI, Energy System Service, now serving Ventnor, Margate, and Longport. Check them out. They have this $79 special, kind of like a spring tune-up, $79. Go to energyssi.com. Okay. All right. I thought we would start out with a story that came out. I think I found this on that website. It's a great website, Sherry and Paul, called Play NJ, a former Press of Atlantic City writer, one of the best writers they had in a while. Whenever a good writer comes to the Press of Atlantic City, they don't last long because they get lured away. But Dave Danzis, he is a chief writer, a top guy there for playnj.com. And he has these great stories about real estate, especially when it comes to casinos and gaming and sports betting, et cetera. Did you see they were supposed to open up or redo or get started to launch this new rendition of the Atlantic Club, which was the original Golden Nugget in Atlantic City, calling it some kind of a condo-tel, half condo, half high-end boutique. Remember this story came out about a year or two ago, guys?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not familiar with it, but it's going to be interesting.
Well, condo-tels are a very common concept. It's because people who buy high-end condos like all the amenities, and then they share it with the hotel. So you see that like in a lot of high-end places.
It's a very, very challenging building to get financing on because of the condo-tel situation. Most of the time it's called a non-warrantable condo. Either you're paying cash or you're getting a non-warrantable loan. So it's definitely a challenge.
Yeah,
that's a very good point. No, that's a good point for sure.
But this guy, the developer, Rocco Sabastiani, he bought it a few years ago. So he says, and this is the story from March 19th from Play NJ, but this story specifically was written by Stephanie Loader. And the headline reads, permit delays causing frustration as Atlantic Club pushes the comeback date to beyond 2025. And then there's other developers in Atlantic City, like Pat Fasano. His name is closely associated with the Orange Loop, doing great work down there in the middle of town near Tennessee Avenue and all that stuff. And he's running into issues. And I'm just saying, and then, Cheryl, we know there's some residential friends of ours. When we asked them, hey, what was it like building your house in Atlantic City? They said, I'd love to be here, but man, it's not easy. It seems as if they put all these speed bumps in front of me, right?
It was brutal getting the approvals, even when you're within compliance. Like, why is it so challenging if you're in compliance to get your permits? Don't understand.
Yeah. And this story goes back to November of 2022. Atlantic Club owner planning luxury condos, boutique hotel in former Atlantic City casino site. And it's just weird. It's just weird how the city of Atlantic City puts a lot of focus some places and then totally ignores. I think they ignore everything this side of Albany Avenue. But the thing about it, Paul, you know that little by little, our good friend Mayor Marty Small, the mayor of Atlantic City, the esteemed mayor, he's pushing to expand more cannabis businesses. Looks like there's going to be one on Albany Avenue, and then it's getting closer. It's sinking closer. It's moving closer to Ventnor. So there's some stories that it's on this side of Albany Avenue now, a couple of blocks in. It's Who's going to stop them? And, it's not necessarily a bad thing to have cannabis businesses, but it looks really weird if you're trying to position yourself as a family destination. As a real estate person, does this play a role at all? Sure. If you were to go in and show somebody, hey, invest here, buy a home here, move here, and you pass an awful lot of cannabis businesses, would that affect you?
Unless I did a lot of cannabis, or, plan to frequent these places. Yes, it can be a detriment if you're buying, look, they're going to develop these condos. They're going to be very expensive condos. And then you're still going to have, the element of the pawn shops and the cannabis shops on the boardwalk. That's not good. The one thing I do also want to say is the city of Atlantic City is very quick to approve permits for Atlantic Shores to build their substation right on the beach.
That's right. They're real good with that. Yeah.
They're all in. Oh, there's going to be all these jobs from all this offshore wind, and they had no problem approving all that.
They know how they know how to expedite that stuff, man.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anything else? Any thoughts, Paul? I was going to do a little more show and tell here, but why don't you give us a quick peek, Paul, real quick before we do show and tell? I got some great video. We're going to go to Ventnor Plaza and see all the great work they're doing over there next to the Acme and Pickle Juice. Wow, Ventnor Plaza. What an amazing project. We got some pictures of that. And we'll talk about squatters. Is that really a thing? And short-term rentals, how it kind of manipulates and kind of inflates the real estate market. And there's an awful lot of, I call, phantom inventory. This is certainly inventory that people would either transact as realtors or would rent out on a weekly or monthly basis. But these houses, they get used a lot during the summer, and then they're dead for about 9 months. And these squatters come in. That's a crazy story. Paul, what's you got no big stories over there in the mortgage world, do you? A guaranteed rate, everything is smooth and easy and sunshine and rainbows, right? Or no?
So it's always that way. But kind of giving an update, guys. It's in my 17 years of doing this has been probably the most challenging market I've faced, because rates change overnight, throughout the day, several times throughout the day, for the better, for the worse. And I think really if the Fed holds tight to what they're talking about, having their 3 rate cuts, which are projected to start hopefully in June 1st, we would definitely start to see a decline in rates. It won't happen immediately. So it's not like the Fed reduces their rate and all of a sudden interest rates go down. There's timing behind that. So if you have a cut in June, realistically, we might just start to see some relief or forgiveness in early July, August, and so forth. But there's other ways to look at getting money for purchases, whether it's a cash out refinance on your primary residence, which is very, very common. There's also bridge loans that if you need to sell your property, but you need the equity out of it, you can bridge the gap until your house sells, which is a very popular thing. And lastly, which I just got certified to start doing, is reverse mortgages. So if you have a primary residence and it's free and clear, you can actually draw money from that house to purchase for a new property. And it's very unique. You have to be at a certain age to be able to qualify for a reverse mortgage, but it's a very good idea where the borrower doesn't have a mortgage payment when they purchase a new property. The reverse mortgage is satisfying that. So love to talk more about reverse mortgages. Very popular. It's coming back into the market. It was very big in the early 80s. However, we're really starting to see a push into the reverse mortgage side. Like I've said before, don't wait for the rates to go down. You and everybody else is looking to do the same thing. If the property is for sale, your offer is accepted, close on the property. You will absolutely have an opportunity to refinance in the near future, which in turn will lower your payment at some point. Do not let the interest rate scare you away. Short-term loan.
And I think Sherry's going to work really hard at getting the price of housing to come down, Paul. So she'll play a role here to make the market more robust, right?
It's a win-win for us.
Yeah, we can't beat
We're
that.
a team. We're a
All right.
team.
Sherry's going to save her.
I wanted to ask about the reverse mortgage. What is the age?
59 and a half. 59 and a half is where that number starts. But it was portrayed back in the 80s and early 90s as just a really bad loan. It's very costly, not a good loan for people. Basically, you're just taking the equity that you have in your house and utilizing that. And when you pass, that mortgage is satisfied. So doesn't stick the children with the debt. It's covered in the actual sale of the property once someone passes away. So
Why did it have a bad reputation? Wasn't it because people became like upside down because their values of their home decreased?
well, now it's regulated, so they have a good idea that they won't lend more than what your house is worth, and they actually put market adjustments in there. So the cost to do it, like on a $200,000 loan, and I'm just using an example, you might pay $25,000 in cost to do that, right? So it was a very costly loan that wasn't really good for people that are in need and need to kind of get themselves bailed out, you would say. So it's definitely changed, a lot more user friendly. There's so many different options with a reverse mortgage. You can actually draw money to live off of if you don't have a retirement income from your property, as basically as an income source. So a lot of different ways to utilize that program.
You guys ready to go to my favorite topic here on the Down Beach Buzz Real Estate Webcast that will soon say goodbye to Madness Our House as our opening song?
Let's rock.
You're all ready, Sherry?
Mhm.
You sure? You sure about that? Okay,
Yeah.
here we go. So my favorite topics du jour are the short-term rental issues that all towns are dealing with. It seems like the seashore is in a bubble somewhat by itself in regards to setting their own set of rules in regards to short-term rentals, where the rest of the world, the rest of the United States and the rest of the regions, they all have a variety of restrictions that they place upon short-term rentals. That's known as Airbnb and VRBO, et cetera. So, and squatters. I mean, it sounds insane, but it also kind of ties in with ADUs, accessory dwelling units, something Governor Murphy of New Jersey has been pushing, encouraging towns financially to start get more aggressive. Turn that garage, turn that shack that you have in the backyard into a legal residential property that you can have people move in to. And that also plays into the affordable housing. There's some affordable housing mandates that'll kick in 2025. Every town has to have a game plan. How are you going to provide more affordable housing in your neighborhoods? And what if you don't have any more space? There's only so much building space. Actually, there's none along the shore. What are you going to do? You might see what? Higher density housing? Sure. Probably ADUs, high density, multifamily. You think that's coming, or am I just wearing a tinfoil hat? You know?
We talked about this the last time we were on, about like, we don't even have room for parking. Like, where is this going? And I felt like it's very important to have affordable housing for, for everybody, but it should really be looked at on a town by town basis, not have like this blanket, you have to have X% of affordable housing. Like, it's just not practical in like a shore town where every lot, first of all, you're already living very close to your neighbor, and then there's no parking. Where are they putting these high rises of affordable housing? I don't know.
Well, you know, there's always been rumors in Margate of them trying to build high rises, and that it comes and goes. You know, when they start finding out that somebody might want to build a high rise in Margate, we kind of forget about that. But a few years ago, it was all the rage and fighting about that kind of stuff, right?
The hotel that they wanted to do near Lucy, right?
That's right. That's right. That's a crazy comment that just came in, Paul and Sherry. Is Mayor Small of Atlantic City, is his home being raided right now with his wife's office? We just saw another story that an Atlantic City high school principal is getting investigated or whatever, or getting let out or told that who knows. There's some monkey business going on, but I just thought I would bring that up because people who are in charge of our schools and our mayors and our elected officials, they play a role in the evaluations and the livability of our towns. And when you see this, it's not good. So we've been hearing about that story for a while. So let me get rid of that real quick. That's crazy.
Thank you, Joni.
Yeah, let me hide that. I think there's some truth to that, but I don't know. Whew. I'm very sad. I'm very upset right now, I think. I'm triggered, I think that's what they call it. All right, let's do, we'll do a little video.
Wait, you're upset about Mayor Small? What? Why are you upset?
Well, no, they're in charge of keeping our children safe and educated. And I don't think that's happening at all. And when bad things happen in our school districts, okay, they happen sometimes, but you better get in front of the parents and the taxpayers and say, this is how it's never going to happen again. This is how it happened. And this is what we did to put in place. It'll never happen again. Atlantic City doesn't do a very good job in that regard. Neither does a lot of towns, but whatever. All right. So you want to do some movie time, Paul, a little video? And this is all about, somebody did a great video and they did a quick little recap of what's really going to happen with all this inventory that's been taken off the market and converted into short-term rentals or miniature motels. And this guy who put this video together, he thinks there's going to be a crash in that regard, with an awful lot of speculators getting caught, holding the bag. As the tide goes out, they're not wearing any bathing suit because they all went in and they just used up all their cheap cash and bought these properties. And all of a sudden, all the rules started to change. Uh-oh. So let's watch a little bit. This is one of the best videos I've seen in a while. Let's see. Make sure video. I am playing it properly, and we're going to make it enlarged. Here we go.
What began as a genius idea has turned into a real estate nightmare. The concept of
You guys can hear that, right?
Yes.
Okay, here we go.
short-term rentals was a simple one. Turn your home into a money-making machine by providing people with an alternative to traditional hotels. The truth behind Airbnb, Vrbo, and all the other STR companies is starting to come out, and now people and municipalities are rebelling. Today, there are entire neighborhoods throughout the United States where Airbnbs alone have seriously altered prices and neighborhood dynamics. From the west coast of California to the sunny beaches of Miami, hundreds of cities have outright banned the industry from their borders, blaming speculation, crime, and greed as reasons why STRs should remain illegal. The biggest of these problems is related to the park and profit theory that has enabled rich people to essentially snatch up properties, using them as their own personal ATMs with the hope of seeing ludicrous returns, paying little to no tax, taking advantage of America's relaxed laws on home appreciation income. Now the general public is finally beginning to notice. With housing affordability at near all-time lows, the anger is building. A new wave of laws, along with customer complaints regarding transparency, pricing, market rigging, fees, and safety concerns, has sort of cultivated into this massive bubble that is seemingly exploding overnight. You see, if you ever visit a tourist hotspot like Sarasota as an example, you will quickly realize that it's not uncommon to see entire buildings with only a few lights on, as many units are owned by the wealthy and left empty, as rents are not as important as having a safe place to park surplus capital. This interesting phenomenon has led to thousands of units having been pulled from the long-term rental market to reap the higher returns of STRs. The situation in the Sarasota area is deeply unsettling. According to AirDNA, there are approximately 6,500 Airbnb listings, a staggering number for an area that is made up of 24,000 households. This means that nearly 1 in 3 homes are classified as an STR. This glaring statistic points to an alarming oversaturation, making it one of the most densely Airbnb populated regions in the entire United States. The rapid realization among affluent individuals that renting out second or third homes yields more significant profits than securing long-term tenants has set off a disturbing trend. This surge in investment has led to the widespread takeover of vast areas in the U.S. by short-term rental neighborhoods. The consequences are dire as these returns drive up the overall price perception. Coupled with the speculative nature of the market, the situation is worsened by this Airbnb craze, acting as the turbo engine propelling an unsustainable bubble, especially in places like Florida. And as we will get to later, this unhealthy speculation is overflowing into bad loans, impacting the banking industry and therefore posing a threat to the entire financial system. The looming threat of an inflated market bubble raises serious concerns about the stability and sustainability of the real estate landscape in these regions.
Wow. Let me bring you guys up here. Hold on one second. What's the one thing that you listened to, what you heard that really piqued your interest, Sherry, during this video so far?
Well, like how it's driving costs up, and like then all I could think about are the people that, want a nice home that they can enjoy in a nice neighborhood. Sarasota's beautiful, it has the beautiful waterways, and then they're gonna have these Airbnbs like surrounding them. One in three? That's like crazy. So
And how about he mentioned mortgages, Paul, and the financing of these speculative, some of them are speculative purchases of homes taken out of the market and sometimes parked there just because it's a pretty good parking space for your cash. If you don't know what else to buy or how to diversify, people over the past few years were just buying homes and just parking them. The park and profit, they call it, right?
Yeah, most of those properties on something like that typically are usually cash buyers. However, from a mortgage standpoint, if they need the rental income that unit brings in to qualify, the appraiser gives us what the average fair market rent is for the month. So there's a lot of homework that they have to do. So if it's an Airbnb property, they need to figure out what that property generates annually, and that's the income that the borrower can use to qualify. So a lot of borrowers don't want the hassle; they just pay cash. So, but yeah, I thought that they said that it'll drive the housing prices down because people don't want to buy around them when they're full with Airbnb. Did I hear that wrong? Maybe that's
I
what it
don't.
was. I thought that's what they said, because if you're selling your house and the two neighbors on the side of you are Airbnb units, it could actually bring the property price down because no one's going to want to live next to them.
But if you are an entrepreneur getting into the Airbnb business and you see that neighborhood has been spot zoned as a
Sure.
commercial district, you
Yeah.
might want to buy it.
Yeah, buy in there. Yeah.
But that's pretty risky because we're interpreting the master plans and the code, the city code, the zoning enforcement code, and that could change at any moment. And all of a sudden, you can't operate your commercial business in a residential neighborhood. So, sure, what if you had that? You were selling somebody into a big, beautiful home, but it was surrounded by two short-term rentals. By real estate law or ethics, you have to disclose that, or what's that?
I have one rule: disclose, disclose, disclose.
So,
You should always disclose what you know, even if it's not good news, because someone could come back to you and say, well, why didn't you tell me this? You knew this. Your job is to know this, and you didn't tell me. And people will drag you right into court and say,
location.
That
I
is so
didn't know.
scary.
And
That is so scary.
well,
The
yeah,
short-term
but
rental.
you have to disclose.
Yeah. And the same thing holds true
So
for that Ocean City. Remember, Ocean City recommended, hey, if you're buying into Ocean City, keep in mind you might have some wind turbines on the horizon someday in the future, right? Right?
yeah, like I believe you need to disclose that. Look, we don't know what's happening. It is a plan. It seems to be moving forward, but there's a lot of lawsuits. I'm hoping it doesn't happen, but you have to disclose, it, because people need to know that. And now there's new disclosures coming out about flooding. Even when you lease a property, there's there's an addendum that needs to be signed whether that home had flooding before,
Yep.
because a tenant is going to subject themselves to that property and potentially have all their valuables ruined if they don't know. They need to be informed. So again, it's disclose, disclose, disclose.
Yeah. And is the in general, Paul, is the financial markets, the mortgage markets, are they a little more strict? Do they have? I mean, you guys are getting creative because in this tough market, you have to come up with different products. Is that how that works? And then sometimes the rules change that you have to modify the requirements to work with somebody, an individual.
I mean, it's pretty standard on what an investment property brings. It's disclosed up front. You buy it as an investment. Typically, people are putting down 20 to 25% on any investment property. Your interest rates are impacted when you put 20 versus 25% down. But the guidelines are pretty straightforward when it comes to rental properties. But I mean, we're starting to see more and more of them people want to buy rentals because there's a lot of buyers that can't afford this current mortgage rate. And what it does is it's driving the rental market and rental prices up.
Don't people sometimes misrepresent their use of a
widening of
property as a rental? Paul?
They sure do.
affordability.
They do. You actually, there's guidelines that allow you to rent out your departing residence when you want to buy a new one. You can establish a lease on your departing residence to help you qualify. So there's some things that are out there in the industry, but most investment properties are pretty straightforward with 20 or 25% down. And they come with much higher interest rates too. There's an adjustment for second homes, investment properties, and then your primary. Primary rates are much better than the second home or an investment. So,
All right, so it's the Down Beach Buzz Real Estate Webcast for March 28, 2024 with Sherry Lilienfeld of eXp Realty and Paul Skollich from Guaranteed Rate. You can find him at rate.com, or you may stop over his place, his office in Brigantine, and I think there could be a nice plate, a lovely plate of freshly baked walnut sticky buns from Aversa's. Possibly.
and they're right next to me. I'm looking out the window right now and I'm staring at them.
Really?
I'm getting excited. Let's wrap this up. Come on, I'm hungry.
Man, I'm glad I'm kind of don't live there right now because I always was going in there with the takeout, their prepared foods. Aversa that place is so amazingly great. It really is.
They got everything there.
We have
pretty
one in
soon we'll
mind.
be serving You do. Pretty soon we'll be serving fresh bluefin tuna here once we start catching it.
Nice. All right, you want to talk land use, planning, and zoning? And Sherry probably is tired of hearing me say this, but lately I've been talking about how out of all the big municipal meetings that taxpayers and residents should keep an eye on. So you have the school board meetings, the commissioner meetings or the council meetings, and the planning and zoning board. Which one of them probably could have the most positive and negative impact on you as a resident? I've increasingly been talking about how the planning board can really cause disruption in your neighborhood. You might find there's a miniature golf course right across the street from you, or a 4-lane highway for 18-wheelers to come right back in behind your Ventnor backyard. A lot of these big decisions in regards to land use and zoning, a lot of it happens in the off season. And of course, I keep talking about how important it is that they have to provide live video streaming of these meetings. And there's no reason why they can't. Technology is easy. The costs are negligible. They don't want you to see how the sausage is made. Of course, that's my conspiracy theory. Listen to this guy from Tampa, this realtor guy with this show, and you guys give me some feedback all about land use, planning, and zoning. It's a pretty good one.
Is the biggest tool, I would imagine. I think the land use issue is the biggest tool I would imagine council has to affect the supply.
It's the biggest bang for your buck because
Yeah.
it doesn't cost any money to change an ordinance.
Right. It doesn't cost money. You're unlocking areas of the city, adding more density, and then private enterprise foots the bill. Developers come in and do what they do. And I think the idea that the city themselves will be the ones to alleviate the inventory supply issue is kind of crazy. Like, how would the city build enough units themselves to alleviate this insane demand we have? That's not possible, right?
The question about dollars is really, what is the biggest bang for the buck? Through the pandemic, the focus was keeping people in their homes. It was housing stabilization, rental assistance. But moving forward, that's going to shift a little bit more into what are we doing for homeowners? How are we making sure that there's actually a broader focus and that we're not just pushing money out the door as quickly as possible to pay for people's rent bills?
There you go. You never know. You'll wake up one day and your elected officials could change the zoning ordinance for your neighborhood because it's talked about in Ventnor, a little bit of Brigantine, where they spot zone neighborhoods or portions of neighborhoods. Mayor Lance Landgraf, he's been talking about this, changing the rules to, waive parking or density or setback. So, of course, Mayor Lance Landgraf of Ventnor, he's also the guy in charge of land use and zoning and planning for the city of Atlantic City, the tourism district. So this guy has a lot of smarts. He's really good at what he does, but he can change the makeup of your neighborhood like that. And if you're not paying attention through live Zoom meetings and more transparency, you could wake up and say, what did I just spend money on in this neighborhood? I'm surrounded by short-term rentals and sober living homes, and cannabis manufacturers. I mean, it sounds crazy, but we're slowly moving in that direction. So what do you think about the planning and zoning? I think Sherry might be able to share some
Sure.
detail. What do you think, Sherry?
Well, as you know, I've started attending
Developers
a
have
lot
to
of
do it.
the commissioners meetings and some planning meetings. And I got to say, it is very, very educational. And you're right. The fact that they don't allow people to watch these over Zoom is a problem. And like the commissioners meetings I go to, like I'm there with a few other people. There's hardly anyone that goes, but they're really very interesting, beneficial meetings to know what's going on. And I will also say it's not like they don't do it on purpose, but it's almost like they talk code, meaning they'll say, no, they'll say, hey, let's pass ordinance number, blah, blah, blah. So unless you do your research on what that ordinance number is, like you have no idea what they're talking about. And that's just their look, that's the way every commissioner meeting is because they can't really get into detail. So I'm always
they use lot numbers as opposed to addresses or intersections. They use, who knows the lot number? I mean, come on, guys, be a little bit more, come on.
No, in the planning meeting, I think they did have addresses. But I'm just saying a lot of these meetings are code, but the more you go, the more you learn how to navigate through and do your research, and you go online and they do publish the agenda, and then you could do some research ahead of time. But really, I encourage anyone who is in town to come to these meetings, and the dates and the times are published on the websites of your municipality. And it is very, very educational. So, yeah.
So I did want to give props, because I want to give props to Atlantic County. They live stream their meetings and they allow people to comment remotely. But Margate and Longport, they don't live stream video their planning and zoning meetings. Longport does the least in regards to transparency in this regard. Let me bring you back, Cher. I don't want to get too deep into it, but sometimes I lose track of where the hell I am.
There we go.
All right. I mean, I don't want to beat up on the mayors too much, but just, in closing, it's really important to keep an eye on the planning and zoning stuff. A lot of big things happen in the off season whenever we're down in Florida or they're back home in Philadelphia or Cherry Hill. And a lot of big decisions are being made, and there's no reason why you shouldn't have live video streaming of these planning and zoning meetings, because big decisions are being made, big ones. Like, did they allow this thing to get this monstrosity to be built right next to me and with no setback and poor drainage, all kinds of stuff.
Well,
anyway.
with this affordable housing requirement, they are going to have to think really hard about where this is going to go. And people really need to attend these meetings to know what's happening.
You watch when those fights from a couple of years ago at Ventura's maybe wanted to do a hotel or a condotel or another high rise, many more floors. That could be used to say to Governor Murphy, hey, here's our fair share of affordable housing, because any new units, a percentage would be affordable housing, and affordable housing could still be pretty damn expensive to live in. So don't always think it's people that are broke living in a potato sack. But affordable housing has to do with what the average income is of a town, Sherry?
Yeah, and it's like 60%, like that your income is like 60% of the average income that you could afford this housing. Some formula similar to that. So yeah, if your average income for the town is really, really high, then it's still going to be expensive housing.
Yeah.
But.
All right, it's the Down Beach Buzz Real Estate Webcast. So some headlines. We'll just run through this, kind of a lightning round. Okay, Paul Scollage of Guaranteed Rate.
Got it.
You're thinking about spring and summer fishing, aren't you? I could tell.
So I am focused. But the rain comes down pretty good right now.
Yeah.
But he said he wants to get he wants to go to Versa for lunch, so he is hungry.
Right, yeah.
And he said he knows I'm going to spend a little too much time on short-term rentals. Here are some of the headlines that I've gathered over the past few days, just to let people know that, hey, this short-term rental thing's a big deal. The laws are changing. They're being clamped down on. The days of the wild, wild west, I believe, are coming to a close. Some of our Jersey Shore towns, they're still, fast and loose with rules and regulations and vetting of who are the people inside this property next to my house, and are they done legally? Are they properly insured? And the days of just doing what you want to do, they're coming to a close, I believe. So some headlines here. Short-term rental ban recommended in Muskegon. New Orleans, short-term rental rules are in effect after a legal fight. Code enforcement reports show violations of short-term rentals on Seabrook Island. Biloxi considering a 2% room tax on hotels and short-term rentals. That's something that these towns should consider, that could pay for the management. That is a room tax, right? Crackdown on Airbnb. This is the LA Times and other short-term rentals coming to LA County. Smart renting, Vineyard Sisters, blah, blah, blah. Judge rules against Omaha, Scottsdale. It's happening everywhere, but I just want to warn the Down Beach area, Atlantic City, Brigantine. Atlantic City has no rules, no enforcement, nothing. And people think that Margate has enforcement. I believe it's not good enough. Ventnor has really spotty enforcement. Brigantine's still trying to, get stuff together, but I believe that they're stalled with hiring some new people based on some of the council meetings. They don't want to announce who they're going to hire yet, but they have budgeted in Brigantine for a small team to keep an eye on all this stuff. But for some reason, something's holding that up. Here's the big story that kind of jumps to the top of the pile. You ready, Paul?
Sure.
Have you ever been to Nantucket, Rhode Island?
I have not.
How about you, Cher?
Yes.
It's beautiful, huh?
Beautiful.
So this is a big ruling, and this could set precedent. So if anybody is saying, well, we're afraid of being sued, well, take a look at some of this legal stuff. In a bombshell decision with major implications for Nantucket, a Massachusetts land court judge on Thursday ruled against the town. It ruled against the town of Nantucket in the closely watched short-term rental case brought by Silver Street resident Kathy Ward and her neighbors and the Nantucket Zoning Board of Appeals. The judge ruled that the town's zoning law, its bylaw, does not allow short-term rentals as a principal use of a primary dwelling. He reversed the zoning board's prior decision in the case and remanded the matter back for further consideration. So Paul and Sherry, I guess the key phrase here that jumps out at me is that the zoning board was pushing this through, and the residents say, what are you doing? And even the judge smacked them down a little bit. So it was the zoning board that was pushing this through. And the judgment, just a couple more things. Judge Vase rejected judgment. He said the town's long-held position that short-term rentals are a residential use under the town's zoning bylaw. That interpretation had been used by the town's building commissioner, Paul Murphy, and the zoning board to dismiss requests for enforcement actions that challenge the legality of short-term rentals operating in a residential neighborhood. It's kind of weird that the parts of city government that are protecting the builders and the developers of short-term rentals, they seem to be builders and planning board people who are making big decisions. And so the judge slapped them down. Thoughts?
Look, it is very hard to manage a rental unless you're physically there. And these platforms, Airbnb and VRBO, they make it so easy for people with no experience in being a landlord to be landlords. And there's just all these problems that are coming out of it. I mean, that's why it's all over the media, because it's just a disaster. So,
and we're not,
I'm glad that judge did that.
But I don't think any of us are against short-term rentals, but when it jumped over into nightly rentals where you didn't have it was a third-party app, a digital app that pick and choose who was going to be living next to you for the next 24 hours. You don't know who's inside the property. All kinds of things, good things happen because of Airbnb and a smartphone that you could, book a room or an Uber or something to eat. But the downside is smart entrepreneurs have exploited, and I mean that in a positive way, of the current zoning rules, and that is they're putting miniature motels in a residential neighborhood. And in this headline that we see here, the ruling is going to send shockwaves, not just here in Nantucket, but through any resort community that has any ambiguity in their zoning code. So just to recap here, I believe that the short-term rentals, it's a great idea, but they need to be properly managed. It can't be the wild, wild west. There has to be enforcement, has to be lawful, insured properly, all that. And I believe that short-term rentals, the STRs, inflate the values of properties. I can make that argument, but who knows? I'm just an amateur realtor and appraiser. Towns are unprepared. They have never seen this before. So we're not blaming every mayor, every council, every commission, but they don't seem like they have their hands around how to best deal with this. Insurance and mortgage issues, unvetted occupants. It's a short-term rental hell, the competition. So as more and more short-term rental entrepreneurs get on board, they convert their home or their duplex or one of the side by sides into an Airbnb, more and more people pile on with inventory. And what happens? It lowers, the supply grows, the demand's the same. So you're going to have a lower rate because competition is going to drive down rate. And then maybe some landlords are going to grow desperate and be a little loosey-goosey in vetting that renter, because the lower price, you get different types of folks coming to your place. Commercial operations, that's what they are. They're commercial operations in residential neighborhoods. Towns, and nobody saying this out loud, but towns face serious liability as they leverage your money. They leverage your piece of real estate. But guess what? When they defend themselves, when you try to sue them, you're going to be funding that. You're going to be funding the other side of the argument. That's the sad part about it. When you sue your town, and in some towns, they're being sued by residents over short-term rentals. It's funny, or it's sad, that the taxpayers are funding the bad guy or the other side of the lawsuit. So just in closing, keep an eye on the master plans. Are they being adhered to properly? The zoning ordinances, I think there's non-compliance with zoning ordinances. No one's kind of pushing and to try to get some clarity there. And everyone's afraid of a reval. For sure, they gotta be saying nobody, but Governor Murphy's the kind of guy that will say, you need a reval. Affordable housing mandates coming in 2025. And then ADUs, that's accessory dwelling units and multifamily destiny. So in Margate, for example, you can say, I'm going to build on top of Ventura's, a couple, maybe 10 more stories. That could be something to show that Margate is getting into the multifamily, lower priced, affordable housing. And we got to get all those municipal meetings live Zoom videoed, okay? They need to have remote public comment. Why are you not forcing your leaders to make sure we can watch these municipal meetings in real time on Zoom? Why not?
Wait, all I want to say is, aren't you glad I didn't talk about absorption rate today?
It's crazy. Absorption rate.
Aren't you glad look, I mean, I do want to make one point about your housing, your short-term rental thing. And you're right. It's creating a commercial zone in a residential area. They are running single family homes like hotels. If you have 1 and 2 day rentals and people in and out, that is a hotel. The other thing I want to say is, like in Florida, when you do short-term rental, and short-term rentals consider anything 6 months or less, you are to charge tourist tax like a hotel. You're to collect 12% tax and pay that to the state. You are considered like a hotel because you are collecting that short-term rental tax and then paying it to the state. So that's.
Hey, Paul, you want to get Sherry juiced up a little bit?
We're gonna rock and roll. Here we go.
So it's either about plastics and having Margate finally write an ordinance where all builders have to have clean sites and get rid of those contaminants coming off of the jigsaws and the saws and the construction using these plastics. That's one thing that gets her fired up, and rightly so. Sherry's really big now on going to municipal meetings, like planning board meetings, because even though most of it's pretty boring, every so often something pops up and you go, hey, that's pretty compelling, right? It's damn interesting. But a couple days ago, I had somebody tell me that, hey, there's a whale or a dolphin on the beach, dead, washed up. Went down there, took some video. I'm gonna watch this video real quick. It's about a minute and a half. You ready, Paul? Have you seen this yet, Paul?
I have not.
But the title up on DownbeachBUZZ.com, it says, "Please don't take a picture of the dead dolphin on the Atlantic City beach." Well, why not? Here we go. Oh, look who's here.
I want to, but I mean, the photos where you covered it. Can you guys stop taking photos? I'm sorry. Can you at least stand back, please?
And you're from where again?
I'm from the Marine Mammals Training Center, but if you could stand back and give us a little space to work, that would be very helpful.
Yeah, we're waiting for Lance Landgraf to get here and Marty Small. We look forward to speaking with them. I'm such a jerk.
They said, like,
Please stop taking pictures. I like that. They covered up the dolphin. Please stop taking pictures. Yeah, please don't document this.
You're a great reporter.
Please stop taking pictures. How about that? So the weird thing about this was when I got down there, right there on the border of Ventnor and Atlantic City on the beach with the dead dolphin, the second one in 2 weeks in the relative the same area.
We need
There
to
was,
see
like,
you. We need to see you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Here we go. So what I noticed when I got down there on the border of Ventnor and Atlantic City where the dead dolphin washed up, there was about 6 or 7 firemen. Their hook and ladder, the big truck was down there. EMS was there and a police officer from Atlantic City, the police department. And it was kind of weird. Why so many public safety folks? Now, it seemed like when I came down there and there were other people there doing video, then they started to cover up. It's almost like they were protecting that piece of evidence, but it was weird. And at first, when the police officer said, "Please don't take any pictures," I was going to say, okay. Then I go, wait a second. Well, why would I not want to? Why can't I take a picture of a fish that washed up? That's crazy. Now, she walked away and it was, but, we like the Marine Mammals Training Center, but we're just wondering why there's such protection of these. That's what they did. They went to the front, the nose of the dolphin, I guess looking to see whether it's another one of those many vessel hits, those boat hits, which is typically what they always say. But I always thought, Sherry, this might seem crazy, but what if somebody found that dolphin before everybody else found it, threw it in the back of their truck and took it home? What would happen? Because they can do their own investigation of inner ear and all that stuff.
I don't know, Paul, do you know? I don't even know what the rules are. I don't think you can do that.
Sure,
well, maybe you can.
I mean, I don't see why you can. It's just a washed up fish that's on the beach. It's kind of anyone's game. However, with what's going on in the world and in our Jersey coast, it's probably prohibited at some point where you can't do that. But the first thing they look for is they look and see if it was hit by another vessel or any marks on the top, any of the fins, anything damaged, right? It's hard to say that, but that dolphin looked to be in great shape.
Did it look that? That's what I was thinking. It looked like
it looked color
beautiful.
Yeah, and you don't know. I mean, obviously, I'm not a scientist and can tell you what happened, but typically, we unfortunately, when you're going out in the ocean and you're running a boat, there's sunfish. I've hit sunfish before. It's a shame, and fortunately, hopefully, they live. They have really, really tough skin, but you hit stuff, especially at night. You don't see things, right? But that fish on the beach appeared to be visually looked to be in healthy shape. Now, again, I don't know what they'll probably be. I guess they do an autopsy and figure out what caused it, right? But it's really a shame what's happening. It really is. It's a sad day when they're trying to cover up a lot of this stuff.
Yep. I thought the same thing, Paul. I thought that dolphin looked incredibly intact because I've seen other, like beached whales, and they're bloody and they have, marks on them. This dolphin looked picture perfect, but again, we're not scientists.
Yeah, it'll come out, but we might not ever know the truth of behind anything. That's the sad part. They're going to continue to cover things up, and it's profitability for the state of New Jersey, and they want money, and the windmills are probably a way that they're going to generate money from it. But you're killing sea life. I mean, it's really. I mean, you're putting active sound waste throughout the ocean. I mean, it's bad.
But Paul, we're not making money. We are spending money. We are spending tax dollars. We are not making money.
Well, I think the long term. Didn't the state of New Jersey, didn't they get a large amount of money to be able to do it? And these windmill companies paid the state millions and millions of dollars up front already. And they've gotten their money, but that's a big topic we can talk about. This is a great one there. So
wait a second. Let me just show you a couple of pictures of all the great work at the Acme and the Ventnor Plaza real quick. And then we'll end up with my good friend, Mayor Frank, the former mayor of Atlantic City. And Sherry has to talk about what's going to be happening at Provenza. So 1 second here. I got so many different freaking slides up.
Get it together. Get it together. Come on.
Yeah, but look, it's worth it. It's worth it. I know. Here we come. It's a lightning round. So this is all the work as of yesterday. Yeah. I want to make it a big screen here so that everybody can see. Okay, we'll do it fast. This is all from yesterday. Oh my God. They raised the elevation. They're building multiple standalone buildings for everything from a Starbucks to a Burger King. I think there's a bunch of others. I'm losing track, but I'm always amazed most by the tools the tactics they use to elevate this flood-prone area, a nuisance flood-prone area. I believe they fixed the check valves to make sure that flooding doesn't come up through the pipes from the back bays into the parking lot. That's crazy, but it looks great. They should have a good bit of it done by Memorial Day is what they say, and I think they will because I see an awful lot of construction going on. And Provenza's there, and Sherry will tell us about a big event. But let me go out to Wellington Avenue here from the front, just to give you some idea. One of these gateways into Ventnor and Margate is going to look it's going to look really, really good. Even have a mural on the side of the Acme. So anyway, that's where that is. Pretty impressive, huh, Paul?
Sure is. Is that a mural of Mayor Small?
I don't think so.
No.
Oh,
okay.
no. Maybe you were looking at this. So we're going to end with this. A couple of years ago, our good friend Mayor Frank Gilliam, the mayor before Marty Small, he was a pioneer in getting Atlantic City to be more interested in weed, cannabis, pot. And nobody gives him any credit for it. He was one of the first guys to say, we need to bring weed to Atlantic City. Were you aware that Frank Gilliam was big on that? Or no?
I was not.
Okay, so what I did, I was so impressed by Frank Gilliam that I wrote a song for him called Gilliam's Island. Would you like to hear it?
Oh, Jesus. Let's wrap it up. This will be our new theme song.
This will be the
great.
end.
Come on.
Say goodbye, everybody. Bye, Sherry.
Goodbye. Go on.
And
Here we go.
Let me talk about my fundraiser.
I know. Hurry up, guys. Paul wants to see Gilliam's Island by Frank.
Fine.
We got to see both.
Okay, we'll do it, but let me watch it. Here we go. Just sit right back and twist one up right here in OAC. Get in your car. It's not too far to get high by the sea. Crispy one, bye-bye, fat man, light up a big fatty. We're not talking about you, Governor Chris. We're talking legal weed. We're talking legal weed. Our Mayor Frank is in the tank with Wall Street's Phil Murphy. Cheech and Chong and boardwalk bombs. Pot sales in AC. Pot sales in AC. So spark one up and take a hit. You're sure to catch a buzz from Mayor Frank and all his crew here on Gilliam's Isle. You like that, Paul?
Well done.
Should that be our
was
theme song?
great.
Oh my God, that
You
was
like that?
great. That was
Sit
great.
back and twist one up.
Twist one up, Daddy. All
And
right,
that was-
Sherry.
Hurry up. Okay, sure. Now you have to quickly just let us
Just
know
1
how.
minute.
There we
1
go. That's
minute.
our. There we go. There
Yes,
we go.
Provenza. For those who don't know, it's a great restaurant, but they also have a big space event center, and we're having a fundraiser there on Earth Day, April 21st, from 11 to 2 p.m. It's a champagne brunch. There's be music, there'll be speakers, great food, raffles, silent auction, lots and lots of stuff. It's to support the cause against offshore wind. There'll be speakers and information. Buy your tickets in advance if you're interested in coming to this event. The QR code, and it's at Provenza. That's it.
Very good, Paul.
Nice.
And how about you, Paul? How can people reach you if they have a financial need in any way, shape, or form related to real estate?
I'll be at a Versus for the next 2.5 hours. So if you
There
need
you
me,
go.
I'll be there.
Oh, geez.
Paul's College guaranteed rate, 215-416-5958.
And what's biting on the front beaches and back bays of Brigantine?
Right now we have some tog offshore. The flounder season, I believe, opens sometime in May, maybe right before Memorial Day weekend, which is always a good sign. But it's very quiet right now because it's that time of year. Water's still cold, but be here before you know it.
We'll talk about our own fishing podcast someday in the future, right, Paul?
That's correct. That's correct.
All right. And how about you, Sherry? How do people find you?
I can't.
You can't speak. How do people find you? Well, they know how to find you. Just
She
look
was
for that.
twisting one up.
Just look for that big smile. All right, everybody. I think that's about
Thank
it.
you.
And say goodbye to
Bye,
Madness in our
Saul.
house. It's a Down Beach Buzz Real Estate Webcast with Sherry Lilienfeld of EXP and Paul Scollage of Guaranteed Rate, March 28, 2024. And thank you, John Gergadis. You did a great job producing today. Thank you.
Our house in the middle of a street. Our house.